morning, all. If I can call the Board of County Commissioners regular agenda meeting. It's March 2nd. It's 9:30. If we could have the invocation from Jeffrey D.O. Jeffrey, where are you?
Let us pray. Almighty God, we stand before you in unusual times. This pandemic we face impacts our fellow Lee Countyans in many different challenging ways. We pause to pray for them all. We pray for those who have contracted COVID and pray for their health and well-being, for those quarantined in their homes, and for those in hospital beds or residential facilities. May they know healing and strength. We pray for all healthcare workers and first responders serving on the front lines. May they know safety and peace of mind. We pray for all those who are waiting for vaccines and who worry about their well-being. May they know patience and hope. We pray for all who work hard to make sure vaccines are produced and get to the proper locations, and for all who are administering them. Be with all governing officials seeking to make good decisions for the people they serve. Be present here, O God, in this county commission meeting, that your insight and wisdom may guide all discussion, leading to decisions that will serve our citizens well. Bring your compassion and sense of just mercy into this room, so that all that is discussed and decided may be acceptable in your sight. In your great name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'd all turn to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Next on the agenda, we have several ceremonial presentations. Being the new chair on the block, I certainly thought it would be appropriate to pass some of these resolutions out to others, or proclamations out to others to do so. So both Commissioner Hammond will be last, but Commissioner Sandell is going to help me as well. But I'll read the first one, which is Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day. Anybody from that organization here?
Yeah, a gang of them back there.
Come on up, please.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm going to read this, but I just want you all to come on up.
Oh.
My dad just told me to stand when I have ladies present. Resolution, whereas registered dietitian nutritionists are food and nutritional experts who translate the science of nutrition into practical solutions for a healthy living. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists have degrees in nutrition, diabetics, public health, related field, and well-respected accredited colleges and universities, completed in internships and passed examinations. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists use their nutritional expertise to help the individuals make unique positive lifestyle changes. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists work throughout the county in hospitals, schools, public health clinics, nursing homes, fitness centers, food management, food industry, universities, research, and private practice. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists are advocates for advancing nutritional status of Americans and people around the world. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County does hereby proclaim March 10th Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day in Lee County, and encourages all citizens to recognize the contributions of registered dietitian nutritionists and express appreciation for your commitment to proclaiming science-based nutrition in the hope of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. I sign this dated March 2nd.
Thank you.
Congratulations, y'all. And have y'all identified a spokesperson? Maybe somebody could share a few. Perfect. Okay. All right, so after we're done with the picture, you
We'll
can
get a
just go
picture,
right
we'll
to the
do that.
podium.
Appreciate that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Waco, and I am the Director of Clinical Nutrition at Lee Health. And I am here with the dietitians at Lee Health, and we just want to thank you so much for this proclamation and the recognition of our profession. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next proclamation will be read by Commissioner Sandelli. It's for the retirement of Kevin Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm having a little conflict here because I just got my delivery of Girl Scout cookies yesterday, and I'm talking to their nutritionist team here today, so thank you for everything you've done. This is...
Is Kevin here?
Is Kevin here?
There he is.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. He's masked.
Got me with you, or you by yourself?
Yeah, thank you.
This is... what Kevin has done for a lifetime of service is incredible, and I'm honored to read this, Kevin. Board of County Commissioners resolution, whereas Kevin B. Lewis has dedicated his entire professional career to improving the lives of children and adults, whereas Kevin has actively served as the Executive Director of LARC and previously Chief Executive Officer of Southwest Florida Addiction Center and Solace Care, whereas Kevin has been a strong leader in both the local and state levels in advocating for funding and services, as well as serving on local nonprofits to include past president of the Rotary Club of Fort Myers, president of the Florida Alcohol and Drug Abuse Association, chairman of the Coalition for a Drug-Free Southwest Florida, and board member of the United Way of Lee Henry Glades at Okeechobee Counties, Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, Goodwill Industries of Southwest Florida, and LaSalle Academy. Whereas Kevin's work has led to recognition, including the 2007 Paulette Burton Lee County Citizen of the Year, Trailblazer of the Year from News Press Media Group in 2013, a National Points of Light Award in 2014, the Liberty Bell Award from the Lee County Bar Association, and Distinguished Layperson Award for the Lee County Medical Society for 2015. And whereas Kevin has impacted thousands of lives through his work, helping individuals suffering with substance abuse achieve sobriety and ensuring the remarkable citizens of LARC enjoy their best quality of life. And whereas Kevin has announced his plan to retire on June 5th of this year, now therefore be resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida, does hereby convey our appreciation for his leadership, service, and outstanding contributions to Lee County, and wants to thank Kevin Lewis for his 38 years of hard work, dedication, and unwavering commitment to our community. Duly exceeded the second day of March 2021, Board of County Commissioners, signed by Chairman Kevin Ruane. What more can you say? Professionally and personally, thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
You got your picture taken so many times, Kevin?
Kevin?
Kevin.
Thank you.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
please.
3 minutes? No.
Thank you, Commissioner Hammond. Thanks for the recognition of the work. On behalf of LARC, Inc., thank you for the years of support. LARC celebrating its 67th anniversary today of doing services. Makes my career look kind of like a flash in the pan. But the work's really been a privilege to live and work in Lee County. It's been for myself, my family, it's been a privilege to be here. We've had a chance to work with your colleagues, your staff, who have done an incredible job, and I want to commend them and many of the county staff over this past year for really going above and beyond as we've all tried to figure out COVID-19, and it's been a blessing for everybody. I've had the privilege of working for boards of directors who supported the work and understood the importance of it, and work with incredibly talented people. And I want to thank you as commissioners, because I would tell you over those 38 years, on more than one occasion, the commission stood up on behalf of people who needed help, and that's been greatly appreciated. It's very easy for people to get lost in the shuffle We're a fast-growing county. There's lots of things going on. I live down by that Three Oaks extension, and so we're all aware of that. But people are the key ingredient in Lee County, and so I want to commend you and your predecessors, frankly, for keeping the people in Lee County as a top priority, and thank you for that very much. Thank you for the recognition. Keep up the great work in Lee County. Thanks.
Thank you. The next resolution is for PACE. Is there anybody here from PACE? PACE girls? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Meg Geltner, the Executive Director of PACE, and this is Amy McQuaig. She's an active board member.
Wonderful. I'll read your resolution.
Thank you.
We'll move forward. Thank you. Whereas March is Women's History Month in the United States, a time where our nation reflects the valuable contributions women make to our society. And whereas the young women of Florida are consistent to be tomorrow's leaders. And whereas it's very important that we provide young women access to resources and opportunities they need to reach their full potential. And whereas the PACE Center for Girls is instrumental in providing a better future through education, counseling, training, advocacy, in collaboration with the Florida Department of Children and Families, Department of Education, Department of Juvenile Justice. And whereas PACE Center for Girls, Lee County reports a 95% success rate of keeping girls out of the juvenile system, improving academic success at 96% of students, and whereas all dynamic and valuable contributors to this society. And whereas February 6, 2017, marks the 10th anniversary of PACE Center for Girls providing services in Lee County. And whereas March 11th is the 12th anniversary, and the Grand Dame DT and PACE Center for Girls at Lee County will be honoring 3 local women for their longtime impact to businesses, philanthropy, community engagement, and promoting awareness of services provided by PACE Center for Girls for Lee County. Now, therefore, it's resolved by the Board of County Commissioners, Lee County, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 2021 shall be designated and set aside Believing in Girls Month in Lee County, and urges all residents to engage in the Grand Dame's Tea to honor the female spirit and promote the potential of all girls and women. Duly executed the 2nd of March by myself. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
We want to thank you so much for the county support for our program. Your funding from PFR pays for a transition counselor to work with our girls. They're with us for 2 years, from day one when they're in the school and getting counseling to when they transition out. And the outcomes that you read are partially because we want to thank you so much for the county support for our program. Your funding from PFR pays for a transition counselor to work with our girls. They're with us for 2 years, from day one when they're in the school and getting counseling to when they transition out. And the outcomes that you read are partially because of the counselor's work. One of the things that is new to our program is that if you think about how small we are, 62 girls, about 10 to 13 seniors every year. In the last 2 years, we've had 19 girls graduate from PACE, that small group. All have gone on to FSW for secondary education. So that's where we invest your funds, and those girls will be our future leaders as well. I wanted to thank you for recognizing Grand Dames. That's coming up in a couple weeks. Barbara B. Mann was our first Grand Dame. Remember that? Along with Kathy Kleiss. Yeah. And also, we have Susie Bennett, who was one of the co-founders of Grand Dames as well. So it's a good day for PACE today. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much. Honestly, a privilege. And now I'll let Commissioner Hammond deal with the next resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask Jill Palmer and Dennis Sanders with the Red Cross to step to the podium, please. Welcome this morning. Just you this morning, Jill? All right, excellent. Well, it's my pleasure to read a resolution to you into the record, and then we'll take a picture, and I'll ask you to say a few words after that. Whereas the American Red Cross fulfills a unique and vital role in our community, providing help and hope in the face of emergencies and disaster, and is a true reflection of the humanitarian and volunteer spirit of the American people. And whereas for over 78 years, United States presidents have called upon people to support the American Red Cross and its humanitarian mission. President Franklin D. Roosevelt was the first to proclaim March as Red Cross Month in 1943. Since that time, every president has issued proclamations designating March as Red Cross Month. Whereas the American Red Cross has been helping people for 140 years, responding to disasters and assisting members of the military, teaching life-saving skills, and providing comfort and support. And whereas nationally, the American Red Cross responds to an average of 60,000 disasters every year, the organization provides a link between those in the military and their families. And whereas we applaud the mission of the American Red Cross to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies, and our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on volunteers and the generosity of the public to perform its mission. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida proclaims the month of March as American Red Cross Month in Lee County, and encourages all citizens to support the work and service of relief organizations that support our community. It's duly executed this second day of March by our chairman, Kevin Ruane. Congratulations, and thank you for your good work.
Thank you so much, Commissioners, for recognizing March as American Red Cross Month. How fitting to be honored partnered with many other organizations to meet the needs of our community. We responded in Lee County to 72 disasters, serving 200 by a female, Claire Barton, back in 1881. I wanted to share with you just a few key factors based on our response just here in Lee County in 2020. We had over 343 volunteers contribute 23,470 hours to our community this past year. We partnered with many other organizations to meet the needs of our community. We responded in Lee County to 72 disasters, serving 205 clients, and those were home fire clients. We installed 907 free smoke alarms, serving 613 clients. 510 of those were seniors, and 107 were veterans. In January of 2020, we had documented 2 lives saved from a fire in North Fort Myers due to Red Cross installed smoke alarms back in 2018. So we do know that our program is working here in our community, and we are proud that over 900 lives across the country have been saved through Red Cross installed smoke alarms. This past year, we had back-to-back disasters across our country. We had 57 of our local volunteers deployed to California, Oregon, Louisiana, the derecho weather events, North Florida for the hurricanes. Collectively, they deployed for over 1,000 days of volunteer service. We initiated a youth executive board within our region focused on youth engagement, really building up the future of our organization to serve with our missing maps and also international humanitarian law and teaching about what the Red Cross does across the world. And here in our community, we served and visited 1,000 veterans through our Veteran Visitation Program in conjunction with Lee Health and Cape Coral Hospital. This is the first in the nation where Red Cross has partnered with a civilian hospital to visit veterans.
Indulgence. I'm recognizing Lynn Boucher, who's from the city of Fort Myers. If I'd allow him to come up and speak, he's on a tight time frame.
Hospitalized. We're proud to serve our community, and we thank you for your ongoing support of our mission. Thank you.
Very good.
That'll conclude our ceremonial presentations. If I can ask the board's indulgence, I'm recognizing Lynn Boucher, who's from the city of Fort Myers. If I'd allow him to come up and speak, he's on a tight time frame. Would that be okay?
Excellent.
Sure. Thank you for the change of protocol. I have an appointment. It's nice to cross the street. This is Ward 4, the city of Fort Myers, where we all govern small and larger areas. Honorable Chairman, Commissioners, and citizens of Lee County, I crossed the street this morning to maybe tell you something you've heard about, which is international baseball wanting to bring the Olympic qualifier to lead $1 million of impact on our hotels, our food, from the teams. They pay most of the expenses to come here. They need a place to come. This was originally scheduled for up north, but due to COVID, they've had to relocate it, and it's down between Florida and Havana, Cuba. Tournament, it has to happen, and if we get a Cuba-USA showdown at the end, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of recognition. But your staff has met with the representatives, have worked very hard to bring this multi-nation broadcast. It'll be broadcast out this, which you may know, you may have heard from Tallahassee already, their support for it. But to complement the staff, $1 million of impact on our hotels, our food, from the teams. They pay most of the expenses to come here. They need a place to come for this tournament. It has to happen. And if we get a Cuba-USA showdown at the end, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of recognition. But my reason is like this. So with that said, I hope that this can move forward in June. We'll all be at the ballparks and COVID will be over. Which you may know, you may have heard from Tallahassee already, their support for it. But to complement the staff, maybe United States and Cuba fighting out to see who goes to the Olympics. Thank you very much. Good day. You have a wonderful sports community here, good leadership, and they do a lot with a small budget. So if you can look at that sometime, they can bring a lot more good.
Next, I'll go into the recap, just for some clarity. There was a walk-on and a carryover for an approved MOU from
like this. So with that said, I hope that this can move forward in June. We'll all be at the ballparks and COVID will be over, and we'll see maybe.
homeless. I believe that's been pulled.
Yes, sir. Today's item was contingent upon its passing.
Fighting out to see who goes to the Olympics. Thank you very much. Good day.
Last night it did not, so we will not be presenting today.
Okay, just want to clarify the record. And then on the commission items, next I'll go into the recap, just for some clarity. There was a walk-on and a carryover for an approved MOU from the City of Fort Myers, and just if I could ask your indulgence, I'd love to hear what you have to say about Big Cypress Basin, because I was going to entertain potentially putting on a resilient compact for the next meeting in your indulgence, but I really would like to hear you talk about your issue too. They might be intertwined, and that's why I just thought of protocol, if that'd be okay.
Sure, excellent.
Okay, super. And then we obviously have a county manager and a county attorney updates later on, but seeing that, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that the board would like to pull on the consent agenda?
I have none. I have none.
Make a motion to move the balance.
I'll second that.
Motion, a second. Any public comment on the consent agenda items? Seeing none, any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. We'll move on to the administration agenda. Item number one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would like Mr. Lavender to come to the podium and present administrative item number one, which is purchase of a 2020 parcel.
Good morning, Commissioners. Administrative item one is we're asking the purchase of 10 acres that is contiguous to Pine Island Flatwoods and a parcel of land that the Calusa Land Trust owns. This parcel is over 75% native plants as it stands right now. There's opportunities.
Podium present administrative item number one, which is purchase of a 2020 parcel.
Good morning, Commissioners. Administrative item one is we're asking the board to approve the purchase of 10 acres that is contiguous to Pine Island Flatwoods and a parcel of land that the Calusa Land Trust owns. This parcel is over 75% native plants as it stands right now. There's opportunities in the future for hiking, photography, and there's several different wildlife species there, notably many birds, herons, spoonbills, wood storks that frequent this parcel. And the purchase price is $30,000. Closing costs would be another $6,000.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion on your behalf as the Pine Island Commissioner.
I appreciate that very much. Okay.
I'll second it on your behalf.
I appreciate that very much. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Jesse. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Then we'll move on to public hearing. We'll issue number 1. Roger?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
did you ask for public comment on that last item?
I did.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Johns with the County Attorney's Office. I have the affidavit of publication here for your clerk. This is a petition to vacate the public interest in the public utility and drainage easement located at 15520 Paper Tree Court, North Fort Myers. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
I have no questions and no objections, so Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the motion for approval unless anybody brings anything up in public comment.
Second.
A motion second on the floor. Any public comment? Seeing none. Any further discussion? Any objections? Motion carries unanimous. Go to walk-on and carry-ons.
Do that one, Commissioner, when you get there.
We have one walk-on item, which obviously we deferred. The MOU we deferred, so there's not a walk-on item. Correct?
Yeah, correct. No walk-on items, sir.
So now we'll go to commissioner items. Frank?
None, no items. I've got some appointments.
I have a couple items, Mr. Chairman, if we may discuss them. Let's go ahead and get right to the item that you talked about first. Let's talk about an update on Senate Bill 406, which is regarding the Big Cypress Basin. So basically how this works is the South Florida Water Management District has 2 watershed basins in it. One is the Lake Okeechobee Basin. The other one is the Big Cypress Basin. A study has recently concluded what we knew all along, that the southern portion of Lee County, including Bonita Springs and Estero, is in the Big Cypress Basin. It's physically in the Big Cypress Basin. That's where its water goes. So as a board, we asked the legislature, including our own local senator, to run a bill to move our tax dollars to the Big Cypress Basin from those Lee County residents, because right now those Lee County residents have been paying into the Lake Okeechobee Basin but not receiving any benefit for those tax payments. This is a basin that has been really largely focused on supporting Collier County's flood control needs, and the Collier County commissioners are keenly involved in this basin. This is something that they care very deeply about how it operates, and recently at a meeting they passed a resolution to oppose us joining that basin. They proposed a couple things that they said they'd like to see amended in the bill that would then maybe help win their approval. And I took an opportunity to speak with every Collier County commissioner. Unfortunately, I was unable to speak with Commissioner Locastro. He's the only one, and I do hope to talk with him at some point. The resolution called out a couple of amendments that I think are really agreeable, dealing with the governance and dealing with protecting to make sure that Collier's money isn't spent in Lee County and Lee County's money isn't spent in Collier County. All of these, in talking with our staff, are amendments that we could potentially agree to once we understand them more. The one amendment that I shared with the Collier commissioners that I would have a hard time with is they wanted the start date to be pushed back one more year. What that would mean for the South Lee County residents is their tax dollars would go to the wrong basin for one more year. In essence, we would lose $4.8 million that we could be putting towards future flood control projects in South Lee County for one more year. And so I believe we're very close. If we could have either a joint meeting with the Collier County Commission, or perhaps even better, one of us be appointed as a liaison. I don't think it matters because everybody's kind of touches this district. One of us go down and meet with the Collier County Commission to hear out their concerns and speak with them about the amendments that have been made to the bill, to show that maybe those amendments have addressed their concerns. I believe we could win their support, and I think when Lee and Collier work together, then of course this bill would be successful in Tallahassee if the two of us could come together. So really that's kind of what I was looking for today, was either the appointment of a liaison to go down there and have this meeting with the Collier commissioners to help hopefully win their support of the bill, or potentially a joint meeting if all of us wanted to go.
So I appreciate your comments, Commissioner. I was unaware of exactly the conversations you had where you obviously don't have an opportunity to chat. I went to, obviously, the coalition meeting on Friday. I sat down with Commissioner Taylor, had some lengthy conversations about this, about how we can work together. I had offered, not saying I would, but I had offered if it would be helpful for me to go down there and meet with her and or the commissioner, whatever she'd like. She was concerned about the tax dollars. She was also concerned about the water management district, about them constantly going back to rollback rate, about some of their restrictions from a funding point of view. Drew Bartlett, the executive director, was there. I certainly expressed some concerns we had. We had a little bit of a conversation. The reason that I brought up the compact, okay, there seemed to be a desire, okay, and a willingness for them to get involved in the compact. My concerns with the compact were obviously starting an initiative that not necessarily identifying funding sources. So I'd asked Dr. Severese if he could identify the first 3 years where there wouldn't be any financial resources and or commitment from Lee County, and the ability after 3 years to certainly withdraw. Furthermore, in talking about Senator Pasadomo and Senator Rodriguez, this was important. Seems like it's something Collier was going to do, and I just didn't know if I would have the luxury in 2 weeks to bring this up for discussion. If one of us had an opportunity to talk to, obviously the Collier County Commission about the Big Cypress Basin, because they seem to have some opportunities to potentially link the two and have some type of additional agreement. The other thing that where Commissioner Taylor and I seem to have some commonality is we started at the commission level, obviously as a city council member, her in Naples, me in Sanibel. We had known one another. We just kind of talked about that type of situation. So I wanted to just at least bring this up because I thought they might have not necessarily a direct overlap, but something indirectly associated with one another. That's why I just thought I wanted to hear your comments. I agree with you. We certainly need to go down there and have a conversation with them. We certainly need to do that. And I think that clarity is really important, and I think sometimes over the phone it may not necessarily be as clear as face-to-face and trying to work through logistics. So I agree with your recommendation. I don't know if we need to have a joint meeting. I'm probably leaning more towards one individual going down there and certainly doing that, but I agree with your sentiment.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman, the way the legislature works, and it's a 60-day, very short leash that they're on right now, I think you're both right as on the suggestion of sending a representative to talk immediately right now one-on-one, and I appreciate your willingness to assume that role. So you see my head nodding for doing that as fast as we can. This is a good thing. We've talked about it here. I was proud to be a member of the legislature when these basins were created, and times have changed, and the interests have changed, and the way the money flows has changed, and this is fair and beneficial to both counties here. We're not trying to get in their pocket, and I think you can work that out if you get one-on-one as fast as possible.
Thank you. Commissioner Mann, like you said, we've been talking about this for a couple of years. I know 2 years ago, October, November of 2018, myself, Mayor Simmons at the time, we all met with the different cities and the water management people, and at the time there was some changes going on with the water management, and there was some resistance from some of the cities then. Some of the cities supported it, some did not. So I'm concerned, I'm curious, does either one of you talk to either cities, either Bonita Springs or Bonita, Estero, because at the time they were some supportive, some not supportive. And it's a great thing, I think, for Lee County because we all share the same water. The water doesn't know the lines between the counties, and that was the issue right after Irma with Bonita Springs was all the extra work that needed to be done in Bonita Springs and Estero, and all that water sheet flowed down to Collier County. So we were sharing the same water, so I think there's a need for that. At the time, though, at the conclusion of those discussions back in 1819 was, if I remember right, we left with water management, they were going to spend more money and resources in this area. They took on 7 projects, I believe. We did a local agreement with them. They took on 7 extra projects for us after that. So I think it can more good come out of it, but keep the conversation. So my concern is, what's the city's positions on this?
So I can answer both questions. Having gotten thrown in the pool, and I've had the privilege of dealing this morning with former Mayor Simmons. Certainly both Bonita and Estero are behind this initiative. Talked to both mayors there, so they certainly seem to be, there's a level of support and interest. You know, the other interesting part of this that is a little bit intertwined is obviously the Water Management District. You know, had an opportunity to talk to Drew Bartlett very briefly, and certainly, you know, very familiar with many of the water management people as well as the chair. I worked with Chauncey Gosh for 4 years, so listen, whatever role you all want to play, if you want me to do it, if Commissioner Hammond, whatever, I just want to make sure we get this thing done.
Real quickly, I did sit through the resiliency presentation down at the city of Estero and listen to their, they were on board right away. I've reserved any comment. I was just hearing it for the first time, but I think that it's something that fits into a bigger piece, as you alluded to, and that's with the basin itself. And so I think that any time that we can work together to a common solution, I think it's good for us. And obviously, the concerns for funding, and having local control of that allows us another leverage point in how we deal with one another. So I think it all fits.
Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to you. If you choose to give me an assignment to go down there and talk with them, I would gladly take that on, but I honestly would defer to you. You've had great conversations with folks in Collier as well. I believe this is one we could get over the finish line this session in regards to the Big Cypress Basin. I think the compact is a linked but separate issue that we can talk about. I think I would support the idea, Mr. Chairman, if that wants to come back on a future blue sheet. Let's put it on a future blue sheet. Certainly enough people have approached all of us about the compact that it deserves its day in court, so to speak. So we'll put it on a blue sheet and vet the idea and see if we want to join or not join. But I defer to you on the Big Cypress Basin.
And support the chairman too, doing that.
My understanding is that there is no cost to the county on the resiliency piece. So there's no exposure. We have a chance to look at that over a period of time and make a decision going forward.
I agree with Commissioner Hammond. I'd like to see it on a blue sheet in a couple of weeks. The only thing I'd like to do is at least have some type of understanding if there is something that's intertwined and there's not going to be a cost to us. And in discussing, obviously, Big Cypress, and if that is something that makes us more uniform and makes us more something where we can come to an agreement, I'd like to see that. I've had great working relationship with Drew Bartlett and certainly the chair, Chauncey Goss. So, I'd love the opportunity to try to put this over the finish line, if that's okay. Having known all the parties, having reached out to both Benita as well as Estero, there is urgency, and what I had indicated to Penny, if I had consent up here, that I'd come down and see her this week. And try to do that and start that conversation. And, I will certainly make sure my assistant reaches out to the rest of the commissioners after I meet with her and meet with them all. So face-to-face is the way my dad brought me up, and I'd rather do it that way. Let's get this thing done. Excellent. The board's okay with that?
Very good. So, Mr. Chairman, if that concludes the discussion on Senate Bill 406, there was one other item I wanted to speak with you all about this morning, and that was a follow-up discussion in regards to the conversation we had at the strategic planning retreat, where we talked about the rapid rehousing program. And I want to, first of all, publicly congratulate and thank Mark Mora and Roger, everybody on your team who's working hard to get folks into the rapid rehousing program. I think we set a goal on December 1st that we were going to house 100 households in 100 days. I think we're at day 87, and we were at 95 households is what I understand. So looks like that goal is well on its way to being achieved. Let's not let up. Let's get those last 5. But the one thing we learned at the strategic planning session, commissioners, was that there are 271 people who have raised their hand and said, I want help. I want to get in on that rapid rehousing program. And that is, for me, a big deal, because I've gone out with the homeless outreach teams and I've seen how hard it is just to get somebody to even accept the idea of going to a shelter or getting into one of our programs. It's actually very, very tough. So for these 271, that's who I'm focused on. I would like to find a way to get a roof over their head while they're on the waiting list. It was very upsetting for me to hear that many of them are still on the street right now as they wait to be to be put in the program, or for us to find a housing unit for them. So I wanted to have a conversation with you all today. I wanted to pick up on the conversation we had. One of the ideas that I brought up at the strategic planning session was that we could maybe create a temporary facility. In San Diego, they've used sprung units similar to what we have off of Ortez, where the jail is. It's a big giant tent that's hardened. It would be weather proof. That they could sleep in. You could put bathrooms, laundry facilities, and you could locate the wraparound services from the nonprofits in there, so that while these folks are on the waiting list, they could get clothing, they could get housing, they could get fed, they could get counseling as to how to find a job. And who knows, maybe while they're in there on the waiting list, we could even move them up and give them that hand up that they need to get into a permanent housing situation themselves. And I think we could discuss where that could be located, how it could be funded, all of that. But I just wanted to see if that's a conversation you all are interested in having.
Was it the item basically like that we got deferred today? Because I know the city, we were going to have partners with Salvation Army, who's here today. That was kind of, is that what you're looking at, what we were going to do if the city would have passed it?
Well, my vision was to go beyond what we were talking about with the city. I thought that was a good idea, and I probably would have supported it had it come forward to us today. But my vision is to go beyond that. My vision is that the county would construct a facility, potentially in two phases. Number one would be a temporary facility, like a sprung unit, something that could go up very quickly, that would be clean and could house people and get them out of the elements. That we would actually spend the money to put the facility up, and we would maintain the facility and keep the facility in good shape. And then a nonprofit, we would contract with a nonprofit to actually operate the facility. So we would provide them with the funding or contract with them to then operate the facility, and they would do the actual intake and care for the people who are in the facility, so that we're not in that specific business. And we would, I would think that if someday we wanted to actually build a true bricks and mortar transitional facility, then this temporary facility could get us through that 24 months or however long construction would take on the brick and mortar facility. But let's just focus on phase one right now, some way to help the people who have raised their hand, who have stuck their hand out and say, hey, I want a hand up. How can we get those ones on the waiting list under a roof so they're not waiting for their rapid rehousing in their car for the next few months?
I applaud, you were very outspoken at our strategic plan. I think there has a lot of merit to what you're indicating. I certainly support. I don't have logistics in my head yet, but, certainly the concept and trying to help, there's two aspects of this, and along those lines, there's another piece I'll try to bring into the conversation, but to keep this as simple, and I certainly support. I just don't know logistically how we do this and what's the next steps, if you will.
And that is a great point that I perhaps have left out. I would say the next step would be simply to ask our staff to, in 2 weeks, come back to us with some options that we could put it on a blue sheet too, so that we could vote it up or down. But just come back with some options, study it for the next 2 weeks, give us some ideas for a temporary, because I could be even wrong. The sprung unit may not be the right answer, but give our staff the direction to look at this for the next 2 weeks and bring us back some options at our next meeting to discuss and decide if we want to take action on.
So at the strategic, I was asking, one of the big hurdles would be locations. Have you thought of any locations? This would be, because we're not normally, the county doesn't usually build housing because we have agencies that do that now. We fund, and my concern is if there was a need, obviously there's a need, but there's shelters that are empty now. So why build more shelters if there's current shelters open now? Because we've seen people that went out with the hot teams, they were approached, and they were given opportunities to go to the shelters, and they refused to go to the shelters. So I'm not sure where these shelters would be built at.
And let me be clear, this is not for those people who are refusing to go to the shelter. This is for those who are on the waiting list for the rapid rehousing. This is not for those people. So this is I could answer every question. I have all the ideas of where I would put it. I think a great spot, but I may not be the all-knowing one. I think a great spot would be across from City of Palms Park in that big giant grass lot that we have. You could set up a sprung unit there pretty quickly and pretty easily and have obviously easy access to the Salvation Army across the street where our day center is that we just set up. I think that's one location that we could look at. But I would prefer, instead of making those decisions right now on the fly, to give the task over to our staff so that they could vet those ideas and give us a better recommendation.
I mentioned that location at the strategic meeting, but I think that's still owned by the city, and we just manage the property. So the city would have to be agreeing to that, and they just voted down that type of housing across the street last night. Roger, do you have any?
Let's,
You wanna,
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, we have a couple of the issues we want to make sure we keep separate. The item in front of the City Council last night was in order to provide a place for the homeless who have set up camp in the park to have a place to move and have their tents set up, be secure, and get services and all that. What Commissioner Ham's talking about are the people who are that are on the waiting list for rapid rehousing. Different group altogether. So the city does own that property. We've turned the stadium back over to the city, and have they accepted it yet, Dave?
Yes, they have. It gets turned over in October, officially.
So it's officially turned back to the city in October. Does that include all of that land that's where the parking is?
The parking, each parking lot on either side already belongs to the city. It's just the facility itself.
Okay. So if that were a location, we'd have to, get permission from the city, but, so just want to make sure those two items are.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what the county manager said, and I agree with Commissioner Hammond. One, it's rapid rehousing. Two, it's certainly potentially other options that might be available, and employed the city of Fort Myers to try to work through that initiative, and maybe there's some other things. And the third is really the outreach program that we did with Salvation Army. So I keep all three separate. Your rapid rehousing is something I'd like to do. I think the devil's going to be in the details, and I think it's more than appropriate to bring it back on a blue sheet. I think it's more than appropriate to conceptually we like it. Let's work through logistics and see what type of challenges and or opportunities there are. And this way we can, truly have a conversation. But I think it has more than enough merit. Thank you.
The other thing, maybe they can run somewhat concurrently. Once we have an idea of what this potentially could be, and we go through the logistical piece of this, I think we ought to present that to that 271 people. Is that a concept that they would welcome? Is it a concept they would feel comfortable going to, depending on location and some of the logistical pieces? You hate to go through this, and, well, that doesn't work.
I think some of the things, as you start to get into details, it might actually just present itself and say, okay, here are the details that we're looking at, and you might see some follow-up.
And they may offer some suggestions that might make it work for more people.
I have a question. As far as as what people were talking about, the 271 now, if they are displaced now, currently, while we still talk about this and work through the logistics, could housing be provided to those people now, like even through hotelers that have participated in the past? I think they have actually participated. So they're not homeless? Mark, Roger could respond to that?
Good morning, Commissioners. I think there's a lot of options that we're assessing right now. We took this as a key takeaway from the retreat, and we do have our Human Services team looking at a bunch of different options. We certainly can look at hotel vouchers. That's been done in some communities. But we're looking at several different options. But more importantly, we're looking at the operational cost, what the per unit cost of providing some type of shelter is going to cost us financially, looking at grant funding availability, what available grants out there, federal, local, state grants could we use to finance something like this, and also assessing the nonprofit capacity. I know, Commissioner Hammond, you mentioned a nonprofit operating this, so we're in that mode of assessing what they can do. Obviously, Salvation Army is a valuable partner to us, and they will be included in that conversation, but also researching best practices. What have other communities facing these same challenges done, and to what degree of success? So we know there's a lot of models out there, but we want to make sure we put one that works best for this community. And I think lastly, just cultivating those partnerships, whether it be with a municipality or a nonprofit, is really key to this. So Commissioner Pendergrass, back to your comment or your question, yes, that's one thing that we're certainly assessing and looking through whatever grants that we have available and funding that we have available that might help us do something such as that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, I think it's part of this evaluation that if you so choose, we'll undertake. Our conversation today is about 271 people who are on a wait list. So the question becomes, does that become the constituency that we serve? And once 271 have made their way into the rapid rehousing program, are we finished with the program, or is it something longer term, or that we're going to continue with in the future? So, Mr. Chair, as you say, the devil's in the detail, and remember Commissioner Kiker used to say, well, tell us yes, but then tell us what it means.
Yeah, I mean, my thought would be, as long as we've got a waiting list, then we should have a place to put folks, and I would love to see us get to a point where we work through that waiting list so it's not so large. 100 households in 100 days is really good. I'm proud of but that means with 271 then still on a waiting list, we could be waiting several months to get through the wait list, and then I assume it's going to continue to grow just based on the way the economy and prospects look right now. So I would love to see us have that facility. So I definitely, do you need a motion, Mr. Chairman, or what would you recommend in order to give the staff the direction to bring it on a blue sheet?
Mr. Chairman, I think because of the way this discussion has evolved, a motion with some specifics would be in order so that staff has clear direction.
Okay, so I'll make the motion, and I'll keep it pretty broad so that the staff would have maximum flexibility. But the motion would be that for the staff to study the idea of temporary housing for folks who are on the rapid rehousing wait list, and to bring us back some options at the next meeting in a couple weeks. Does that leave you the room you need?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It does. That's clear.
I'd love to second it, but I don't think I can.
You can.
Huh?
You can.
Okay, I'll second it. Any other discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other commission items?
None from me.
So along those lines, I had reached out to Senator Rubio's office, have had discussions, and certainly my assistant did a great job of tracking them down. And it really had, the main focus was vaccines, but it kind of evolved. You may or may not recall, but Senator Rubio was really instrumental in getting CARES dollars and the extension from 20 to 21. In our strategic planning, it was certainly identified, and was proud to see what we rolled out yesterday, and the phone lines ring as much as they did for rent and utility assistance. But one of the challenges that I had indicated in talking with some of the key members of his staff is that the challenge will be, can we use that $23 million? As someone that's certainly can recall a very challenged childhood, and someone that went through a lot of challenges financially, outreach programs are really essential. And I applaud going over to the Salvation Army and seeing the capital that was required. I had asked their staff to see if there might be some opportunities, especially with all the various bills that are going around. Could there be amendment so we could potentially push in part of that money of the $23 million, because we're not going to use it all, and let's have more of it allocated to outreach, because as someone that has seen this and evolve in any type of issue you might have, some people may not necessarily go from theoretically being homeless into housing, but the first step might be an outreach program. They can shower, get a hot meal, start to feel integrated and feel more comfortable with just society and what we have to offer, and whatever their perception might be, we might help them a great deal. Senator Rubio, certainly they thought it was a great idea and thought there was some opportunities. So I just challenged them, and we'll follow up with a letter. I just wanted to bring the county commissioners up to date. My plea really was starting out with vaccines, but since we had a long visit at the site itself, we talked about multiple topics. I was certainly advocating for more vaccines and challenging Florida just being at that 48% when we got the report from Jessica. There's other states that are obviously much higher, and states that have a cutoff at 62 as opposed to 65. So even the population is even broader, and they're at 53, 55. So that's how it evolved. But he had a very unique interest, certainly thought he would be the right person, was helpful with PPP and just involved in that segment. So I just thought as these CARE dollars were obviously allocated and an opportunity, and it starts to become complicated in the different sections there are. But could he envision helpfully, potentially carving out, and I just said even a minor 10% of that money could we potentially put in outreach. So he did, he thought that made a lot of sense. We had a follow-up conversation. He did discuss it with the senator, certainly thought it had some merit. I'll keep you apprised, but something that I thought strongly that we should advocate for. I was honored to go to the Salvation Army over here in Fort Myers and thought it was a great facility. But, we probably could use a few more of those. But the challenge, as I understood from staff, was there's a significant capital contribution initially. And where does that come from? So there's money on the table, and potentially if we're not going to use all the $23 million, and talked with Mark and we talked about this out loud. Listen, I hope we have the opportunity to use it all and we address every issue that's out there, but reality is, what happens if? No different than the clock was ticking on the CARES dollars and it was going to become, December 31st of 2020 and then give it back. So let's just try to think more proactively. So it was a good conversation. I'll follow up with you all, but I wanted to just report back to the board on the subsequent conversations, and certainly my assistant was extremely helpful in trying to help lay that groundwork. So I just wanted to bring that to your all attention. Commissioner Ivins, Commissioner Pendergrass.
I just wanted to recognize, if I could, just take a second. We lost a good member of our community in Captiva. Dave Jensen passed last month unexpectedly. He was a great member for our TDC here, and he served Lee County and Captiva in many forms. I'd just like to recognize his passing. It was a very tragic passing. He had just retired. Him and his family had social business on Captiva, and he was enjoying life and traveling, and he lost his life. So I'd like to recognize Dave Jensen, everything he did for Lee County and Captiva.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any commissioner items? Commissioner Sandelli?
The only thing I want to again thank our whole team for the vaccination protocols, and we've all been out to RSW. It's exciting to see the people that have gotten their shots, excited for getting that. It's also equally exciting to me to see the team out there. They're excited for them, and they serve them well, and we're working through this and don't want to be lost in the shuffle with that, so thanks.
So now I'll circle back and we'll do commissioner appointments. Commissioner Mann?
Got a couple of minutes.
I have three. Joel Collette is on the Coastal Advisory Council. He is an alternate.
A reappointment of Sean Williams to Affordable Housing and a new appointment to the Historic Preservation Board, Taylor Cakes, K-A-K-E-S.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion carries. Thank you.
I have none this morning.
I have three. Joel Collette is on the Coastal Advisory Council. He is an alternate for seat number 7. Holly Milbrandt is a reassignment to seat number 2. And then Robert Veneo is obviously from Gasparilla Island Municipal Service Benefit Unit, and he is a reappointment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion carries. Thank you all.
I have a new appointment of Christopher Scott to the Land Development Code.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner.
I have one reappointment, and that's Henry Zuba for the Affordable Housing.
Second.
Motion second on the floor. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion carries. Next will be the county manager items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. First one, please, just a point of clarification. Your discussion on the Regional Resiliency Compact. I want to make sure I understand direction. That is to bring it back in 2 weeks for your consideration to sign the MOU.
I'd like to obviously have it in 2 weeks. If there's any change as a result of my conversation, I'll let you know, but I envision it being on a blue sheet if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, sir. And would like we haven't reviewed the MOU in a little while. I know it's undergone a few changes. Would like the opportunity to do one final review, and if there are some potential language changes, we'd like to bring that to you as well for consideration.
You might want to look at Cape Coral. I know they're looking at that tonight, the latest version. And if I could help in any way, let me know.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. The Cape Coral is considering a resolution this evening to join the compact. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then lastly, I would like to ask Mr. Salyer to talk to you for a moment about electronic permitting through DCD for industry professionals. Glenn?
Thank you. Commissioners, we want to submit for your review our proposed plan to increase electronic submittal of building permit, zoning, planning, and development review applications. We'd like to do this by joining our neighbors to the south, Collier County, in requiring industry professionals to make electronic submissions starting April 19th. I want to emphasize this is industry professionals that would be under this new process, which we see as a nice opportunity to achieve consistency across Southwest Florida's 2 biggest building markets and give our professionals working in this space that kind of uniformity. Now, as you know, we've been working toward this day for quite some time. The board has invested about $3.5 million in new technology to enable this process, and we've gradually been moving individual permit types to electronic only over time. So this would complete the process to get us there all the way. The big driver of this, of course, will get people through the process faster. Now, DCD staff has been coordinating with the BIOC and communicating with BIA as more and more volume comes in the door, and you've seen that over the last year especially. The industry is well positioned to take advantage of this new process, but staff will be providing training for the month of March and April on eConnect, which is our public portal for electronic submission. So with that, we'd take any feedback, or Mr. Loveland is here as well. We can answer questions you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Chairman, just one question real quick. What is the definition of industry professionals that you're using?
That was exactly my question.
Well, I'll ask Mr. Loveland to elaborate. It's pretty much what you would think, but Dave?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Loveland, Community Development. It's pretty much what you think.
So with that, we'd take any feedback, or Mr. Loveland is here as well. We can answer questions you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Chairman, just one question real quick. What is the definition of industry professionals that you're using?
That was exactly my question.
Well, I'll ask Mr. Loveland to elaborate. It's pretty much what you would think, but Dave?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Loveland, Community Development. It's pretty much what you think. It's the contractors that we deal with. They submit a lot of stuff. It's design professionals, engineering firms, that sort of thing.
So would you have that written down somewhere so that staff can refer back to it and make sure that somebody passes the test to be an industry professional?
Yes, sir. I mean, we have a big list of people that have submitted permits to us. A regular contractors list is about 1,700 people on it.
Sure.
And firms. So we have that we're working with, and that's who we would notify if we're moving forward with this. The way we're crafting it is the same way Collier County has proposed it. The exceptions would be the owner-builder type applications, the mom and pops that come in for a single permit, and or people that aren't using a design professional for whatever reason, or if there's some particular item that requires a in-person signature or something like that.
Okay. I completely support commissioners, what they're doing. I think this is going to increase the efficiency of the department. It makes sense, and most people are doing it electronically anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a major change. The one thing I just asked was just have those exceptions or that industry professional definition somewhere in writing so that it's not open to interpretation every single time, we have somebody come through with an issue, that's all.
Dave had one other question. How long has Collier been doing this on a e-basis?
Well, they're moving in that direction. So they've had people submitting electronically for quite a while, a year or two at least. They're moving toward requiring all electronic submittals from everybody other than those exceptions that I just mentioned. So they're using that.
I just curious where they were, the things that they've run into, what they've solved, so we can get basically a best practice as we move forward.
And there's other jurisdictions in the region that have moved this direction, City of Marco Island.
I think it makes all sense in the world. So, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioners, along the same lines, this whole program is one of the steps in improving efficiency. But I'd like for Mr. Salyer to talk to you for just a moment to remind us. I think we talked about it briefly during strategic planning last week, but length of time to receive a building permit right now is a little longer than we're comfortable with, and I think a little longer than the industry is comfortable with. Would like for Mr. Salyer to talk for just a minute about that and how we're attempting to fix it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, Commissioners, you'll recall that the Florida Building Code changed from the 6th edition to the 7th, effective December 31st of 2020. And in anticipation of that change, in order to vest their permits under the old Florida Building Code, we got a serious spike in applications. So that, combined with the increased volumes we'd seen since the onset of the pandemic, has put us behind our normal turnaround times. So the staff has moved quickly to address that. We are paying overtime. We are using third-party providers where they're available. I note they're not available often because the industry is so busy, but we are doing that. We've filled all of our vacant positions aggressively. We've even filled 2 positions that were previously unfunded. So we are really making strides to clear that backlog. In fact, for the month of February, we are projecting that the staff will probably process about 800 more applications than they take in. So we're making good progress, but it will take us a little time to clear that backlog.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's all I have today.
County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I have the privilege of presenting the next extension of the state of local emergency to assist the county in its COVID response. We would respectfully request approval.
I'm the one that always keeps making this motion. I
Move
don't
it.
want to hog the floor on it.
I'll second it.
Good. Thank you.
Any discussion? Any objections? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other item?
No, sir. Thank you.
We'll go to public presentations. I have 5 cards. Willie Joe Schottmiller.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Hammond on seeing the real need for this housing and the permanent thing. You've done your homework, I see, and that's a good thing. I have a meeting with Mr. Streets, Councilman Streets, concerning issues on homelessness and ways to remedy this. So I think everybody working together, like you said, and looking at the resources out there, emergency and permanent, so we don't go through this 10 years down the road again. We have the permanent places. I think all of us working together will make that happen. So let's do that, and we'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next public speaker is Cal Martinez.
Good morning, esteemed gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carlton Martinez, and I'm from Lehigh Acres. And today, I represent the Homeless Care Foundation. Mr. Hammond, I congratulate you for saying the nice words and what you're doing in moving forward the agenda of homelessness in America. This situation touches my heart. I'm a car detailer. And when I go and detail cars, there are several homeless people on the highways and the byways, and I'd stop and I'd give them a portion of what I've made for the day. So I know, I've been there. The issue of homelessness in America is a big issue, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, because these people are exposed to the elements and COVID. Correct? That is listening to the voice of the voiceless. Because there are people who struggle with a lot of pains, a lot of addictions from time to time. And we would ask ourselves a question: would you walk a mile in that man's shoe or that woman's shoe? Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you again. It is my privilege and my honor to speak on behalf of these people. But when you are ready to give them a helping hand, ask them their choice and their decision. Let them also speak on behalf of themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christine St. Alman? Sorry.
Good morning, Commissioners, and good morning, County staff. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
I'd like to draw your attention this morning to a problem that Cape Coral has dumped into county laps, and I'd really like to know what you plan to do about it. It was actually happened in 2003, but did not become a problem until about a year ago. Cape Coral has a large island of land.
I don't know if the technical team can show the projector. There you go.
Okay. So Cape Coral has this large island of land surrounded by county lands, and originally the developers were to have an access road off Pine Island Road. Well, now they have an access road off of Barrett Road, and that was supposed to be the only access road, but now they've sold another portion, this here. They have another access road. Barrett Road's a county road that has a dangerous set of S-curves right here, a daycare of 80 kids, North Fort Myers Fire Station, and now we have 290 units here that have been built out, but they want to be able to build them out at 16 units instead of 10 units. So we've got here, here, and here. Well, not just Barrett Road, but we have Heron Road. At least Barrett Road has a line down the middle of it. Heron Road doesn't even have a line down the middle of it. Neither does Hamlin Road, where this access road is going to be, nor does Evergreen Road, which is right by Judd Park. So according to the city of Cape Coral, here's their impact assessment. If they get to remove the sub-district, we're not going to just have 2,200 cars dumping out into county roads. We're going to have another 1,300 or so cars dumping out into county roads. So we're just curious as to what the county is going to do. Also, they told us that there were road studies for Barrett Road, Heron Road, Evergreen Road in order to make this density increase go forward. But we've lived there for 8 years. We've never seen those car counter ropes go across Barrett Road. Now, were the studies done in 2003? I mean, I think the population has increased dramatically since this land was annexed to Cape Coral in 2003. So again, the county has to take care of improvements for what Cape Coral's doing to you. Now, I also wonder how many fatalities are going to happen here at this intersection of Barrett Road and Pine Island Road before another red light is put on a hurricane evacuation route. And then also, there's like no entrance that there's no ability on Barrett Road to put a new exit ramp into this new community that they're building out. But what I'd like to know is why are the road studies for all 4 county roads that allow the 60% increase in residential entitlements? They're increasing residential entitlements. It's not enough what they currently have. And then why are the residential entitlements allowed to be increased before these road studies occur? And again, county is responsible for this. You've got to do something about these roads. They cannot accommodate this Cape Coral traffic flow that's being dumped in here.
Ma'am, is your husband going to follow with you? I'm required from her because you're way over your 3 minutes and still trying to understand if he's going to.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry St. Almond? Sorry.
Good morning, County Commissioners. My name's Larry St. Amand. I live at 1300 Barrett Road, North Fort Myers, close to the subject property that we're talking about here. If I could get you to show this again. Everybody can hear me? Okay? Okay. Well, anyway, when I get started on this, it's going to sound like I'm in the wrong council chambers because I'm talking about the island of Cape Coral here, which is completely surrounded by Lee County roads. I know the one is a state road. As I said, they're going to build there. I understand that. The thing is they're not happy with what they're getting. Now they want to increase the density. Like she said, she showed on the other sheet. It's 46%. And they keep saying that they're not going to use it. We went to a meeting last night, and they said they're not going to use it. Well, if you're not going to use it, why are you asking for it? To me, it just seems wrong. So we're talking here, like she showed you, this 41 and Pine Island Road is one of the busiest intersections in Lee County, I think. Of course, you know, I might be a little biased, but it's very busy. And so you're going to build all these things in here, and then you look at the two on the other side, Heron Road, they got it worse than we have on Barrett Road because they're going to have two exits to probably what's going to be a gated community. So I'm guessing if you give them the zoning, they're going to just build the buildings higher. And if you look at this other sheet, I mean, we went to a meeting last night, and all the lady kept saying was, we're not doing this. And I'm like, well, why are you asking for it? But I didn't really get an answer. So if you look at it, if they don't remove the subdistrict, and the subdistrict was put there because this is environmentally sensitive land, and you've seen the road system. It's not the greatest. So, you know, we're here to try to raise awareness because they only have one more vote on April 7th, and then if they pass it, it's over with. And you guys, I don't know what you guys have done, but if you look at this commercial, look at how the number goes up. I mean, right now it's capped at 250. So now look at this. Let's say they get some commercial going. I don't know all the rules, but anyway, if you look at the density of the residential units, I mean, they've already cleared the land for phase 2. So at any rate, we're concerned, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last card I had is Jasmine Miller. Jasmine Miller.
JD. There she goes. Jasmine?
Good morning. My name is Jasmine Miller, JD. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Hammond, for starting to help the homeless. Now, I'm going to give you some guidance. You need to partner not with the Salvation Army. You need to partner with the homeless and their advocates, the people who know about homelessness and how to fix it. That's all I want to say to you. And I wish you well. Don't forget the Red Cross, because homelessness is a disaster in our neighborhood. And we're here to help you, sir. May Jehovah bless you.
Thank you. And the last card I have is Peter Simmons. Any other public? Do the last one.
Well, good morning, everybody. And Commissioner Hammond, you touched on it this morning, and it's good to see you all in the afterlife, as they say. But stayed quite active, and I wanted to address the Big Cypress Basin. I think, as you remember, when I was mayor and Jim Bosch from Estero was the mayor, we came up and saw each of you to talk about Big Cypress. We spoke, obviously, with Representative Ray Rodriguez at the time and the Collier County Commissions. We went down there. Roger, you were in on probably more of those meetings than you cared to be, but you were there. And we did the same with Leo Oaks and people in Collier County. We've come a long way. We're getting close. We're not there yet, as we know. Change, everybody is, not everybody, but human nature might be resistant to change, so I certainly understand that from the Collier County folks. I get that, but when you, having seen all of you down in Bonita Springs after Hurricane Irma, before we had met Commissioner Sandelli, but we got a lot of issues down there, and we're just trying to, even in my after elected life, if you will, stay very active and remain concerned about the environmental, certainly water quality, but water quantity projects. And I've said it before, my wife's a Michigan native. Up there, we would call it the southeast part of Michigan, the water triangle.